All right, brother. We are live. It is game time. Hopefully, if I haven't messed it up, because I guarantee you I will. All right, listen up. Hey, welcome everybody, weirdos. This is an interesting day. Israel has just now invaded Lebanon, and because it's not like I knew that Israel's going to invade Lebanon, but I wanted to talk about Hezbollah today and how Israel absolutely decimated. Because it's just been something that's been on my mind. I did a little video about the beepers, but I needed some professional help, and I'm not talking about a psychiatrist. I'm talking about somebody who knows what they're talking about. Someone I rely on for some of the news bits that I do and some of the videos that I put out there that you all need to become more familiar with. And that person is Preston Stewart. Preston, welcome to, it's not Angry Streams today. The Angry Streams channel, we put that on pause because of Israel invading Lebanon. We're on the actual Angry Cops channel today, if I haven't messed up the live stream, which is potentially that could have happened.
We might not even be live. Rich, I appreciate it, man. This is a big stage to get started on. You know, I thought we'd start on the Angry Streams and maybe move up, but yeah.
Yeah, right. No pressure. Now the pressure's on.
Yeah, seriously.
It doesn't matter. Nobody expects anything from us right now.
What's big, dude? You're right. A little over an hour ago, at 5:53 Central, so 6:53 Eastern, Israel put out that they began limited operations into Lebanon. So this is about as breaking news as it gets. About
as breaking news as it gets. Again, I was going to have you on today because I wanted to talk about Hezbollah and how the Israeli forces have basically completely wiped out the entire leadership of Hezbollah. What we had in Iraq was do you remember the playing cards, the deck of cards?
Yeah.
They just said, screw that. That's too much. We're not playing games here. And they just had that whole tree straight down linear, who's in charge of what battalion, and then the head guy. I didn't think they were going to go after the head of Hezbollah, to be honest. I thought they were going to leave him alone, kind of like how Israel and Iran like kind of tell each other that they're going to attack one another to save face with their people, but don't really do like extensive damage to the other. But no, They said, oh, where is he? He's in the third level basement of this random housing, like 3 15-story, 12-story buildings. Well, it looks like we're going to need a couple bunker busters. And then just kathum. And they hit like, I want to say like almost a dozen different buildings too. It wasn't just the one that they thought he was in. I was seeing, now this could have been just a, what do you call it? Where it's a video of a whole bunch of other videos.
Compilation?
Yeah, a compilation
mashup,
of
something.
Yeah, like a mashup or compilation of them using bunker busters to demolish a couple buildings.
They hit multiple buildings in that strike. I have heard 80 total bombs dropped on that target. Not little ones, like 1,000-pound bunker busters. And I don't know if you've seen the crater from that.
The crater's insane. The crater's massive. I'm actually on Twitter right now. I'm going to start pulling stuff up so then we can start talking about stuff and have a visual for the people that are watching.
It was not a basement that they hit. It was a legitimate tunnel, reinforced tunnel network underground.
Because that the amount of depth that it was and the space. Let's be real, right? If you took out somebody's basement, a portion of the house would collapse into the basement, and you'd still see a portion of the house above it, right? And like this crater that's left over, it had to be like 5 stories deep, and then they hit the building and it like fell in on itself, so it was almost level with the ground.
That's a lot of destruction.
Which to me is saying that tunnel network was super deep.
Also, not messing around with getting Nasrallah, right? Like they clearly knew where he was.
It's the head of Hezbollah.
The head of Hezbollah. This was not going to be one of those, let's drop one bomb and see what happens, that we've seen play out throughout the last 20-some years.
That's true.
Where it's one hellfire and see what it does, and sometimes it works, and sometimes the guy gets away wounded. They weren't messing around this time. This was... Nobody's going to survive that. Again, and talking about, 50, 60 feet underground to kill everybody in that tunnel network. There were like an estimated 12 to 20 other Hezbollah members with him who were also killed. So they, didn't hold back.
Pulling up some. Let's see. There we go. Here we go. I've got some video pulled up. I don't want it to be crazy, but some dude walking around, and the crater is deep. It is deep. It's
The
gotta
footage
be
that we
40,
have,
50 feet deep.
the
In, like,
footage
what
we have of the strike is at distance, so we can only see like smoke. But it would have been interesting to see a little closer. You have to think that, right?
Say that again. I'm sorry. I got caught up with looking at this crater on the thing, and I heard. My mind blanked for like 5 seconds. What did you say?
The only footage that I've seen from the strike, like from the actual strike taking place, is at a pretty far distance where it's just smoke billowing and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to think, just looking at that crater, it had to have been one on top of the other after the other for like a couple minutes even, right? To just kind of keep going further and further down.
I would think that not for a couple minutes. Usually, if it's a bunker buster, you hit it, and you might hit like 2 or 3 within like 15, 30 seconds of one another. But if you wait like minutes in between strikes, then you allow the rubble to fill in. So I would assume that you would. This is me assuming if a habitual line crosser would actually be a really good guy to tell you about that, or the fat electrician, probably HLC, regarding the bunker buster and how and why they would use it in a certain way.
It's a level of weaponeering that I've never come across. We always, whenever we had to drop a bomb, it was 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about 80, having to get 50 feet below ground, I don't know.
You were infantry, weren't you?
Artillery.
Artillery. Oh, so what the fuck? How do you not know this shit? You weren't like MLRS? Isn't that a part of artillery?
I was a HIMARS guy.
Oh, okay.
But we weren't. We had like the very, we'd be able to hit the specific corners of certain buildings to bring them down. But the idea of 80 bombs, like how many different aircraft are dropping those over what intervals and that kind of stuff, I don't know. They had it together for this strike.
Damn.
They've been watching them for a while.
Well, here's one of the things. Oh, there's a great photo right here that I'm pulling up of. Oh my God, dude. It's like they dug a well. You're right. They might have just kept going deeper and deeper, and just every detonation just shot up a whole bunch of dirt and stuff like that. Because it looks like somebody just stuck cratering charges, and then another cratering charge, and then another cratering charge from the limited amount of explosives experience that I had
Down there. There were rumors that like gases filled the area down there, and that's what killed him, but I'm not sure that that's been confirmed. I don't think we've seen the body, actually. There's been some pictures of what looks like a coffin draped in a Hezbollah flag, but I'm not sure you would get any body out of that.
That's the weird thing when it comes to, like social media and trying to get stuff off of X and other things like that. I always hedge my bets and go, this is what this person's saying, but I haven't seen it anywhere else. Grain of salt. Because I've read in a couple different posts, nothing substantial, that he was crushed by rubble, or maybe like the explosive didn't tear him apart, so that his body was fairly intact. I say fairly as in like he was recognizable. And they were like, oh, get him out of here. There he is.
At the same time, if you told me that they hadn't been able to recover the body yet at this point, I'd believe that too, just based off the damage.
Let's see. I got looking at some of the chats that we got on. Hiram Bifidum. Not for nothing, Sergeant High, but have you ever heard of the acronym SWEAT MSO? What's SWEAT MSO? Being that the bunker buster bombs destroy buildings, not really tunnels. I mean, every man, woman, and child end up victims. Well, I mean, they're supposed to destroy tunnels because the original idea of the bunker buster bomb was to go through Saddam's like French-built, super fortified bunkers that were also connected via a bunker system that are tunnels. They were tunneling systems. From one bunker to the next. So I'm not sure if I answered your question or if you asked the right question.
It's worth a note, though, on the man, woman, and child piece here, because right away, before Nasrallah's death was confirmed, the Lebanese health ministry put out that 7 people had been killed in that strike and like 90 wounded. That number's probably changed.
Yeah.
But given the amount of destruction, for them to come out and say 7 were killed, it kind of suggests that those buildings weren't fully occupied. Or had been evacuated. Yeah.
There was another thing that I saw, that Israel had done some sort of early warning where it was like, hey, man, if you're not here to play, you better get out of these cities. Kind of like what we did in Fallujah. I think it was the second time around. I forget if it was the first or second time around. Could have been both. But basically, there was like a warning that said, you've got like a couple days, 3 days a week. I forget how long it was. You got like a couple days to get out of Fallujah. And if you're there, then we're going toe to toe. That's it. And everybody that stays, you're enemy combatant. So figure it out, And I heard that was not that they did exactly that, but they did some sort of early warning to the individuals that were in like areas that were around Hamas bunkers in Lebanon, psyoped them with a leaflet drop. I don't know what.
Yeah, there's been a few.
Leaflet
done that a few times. Social. They're leaflets, but they put them out on social media.
Yeah.
But they actually look like they could be printed leaflets. In the past, they've dropped them over Gaza, but I think for Lebanon, they're not dropping them. They're probably just blasting them out across a couple different networks, and it's in Arabic. Ones I saw,
if they put it in Spanish, that's not really going to work
English
out for
language,
them very well. What the hell is habla inglés? No.
Nobody left. Yeah. They did a couple where there were some buildings that they said these are housing munitions. We know there's a missile on the first floor or something. Get out of this area in the next hour. And then other times they gave like whole portions of southern Lebanon saying, get out ASAP. Don't be around Hezbollah infrastructure. But it's hard to tell how many of those line up exactly with the strikes. Israel's carried out hundreds of airstrikes in the last couple days. We're hitting everything.
See, I'm going to see if I can't look. I'm on tweets right now. Put up Israel invasion. Full scale of... Oh, yeah, great. I'm reading off an account that says Spetsnaz 007 with a Russian flag. Dude, I said this before. And I'll say it again. I take everything with a grain of salt. I don't take everything as fact here. But, whatever. I'll read it anyway. I don't give a shit. Full-scale invasion of Israel has begun by the Palestinian freedom fighters. Reports of multiple destroyed and captured weapons of the Israeli army as the Palestinians advance deeper into Israel. Oh, that's October 7th, 2033. Hold on. I did Israel invasion. Let me just see. Let me put Israel, Lebanon, because that's not wrong.
IDF. If you just go to IDF, their official page has some announcements. And then you can at least say it's from a
reputable
not
source.
Spetsnaz 007.
Yeah, not Spetsnaz. I'm glad I found him though. Who would have thunk?
Yeah, maybe that's a reliable source going forward.
I'm gonna follow the IDF. Let's see. I got 1 hour ago, 9 hour ago, and 6 hours ago. So let's see, 1 hour ago, IDF, in accordance with the decision of the political echelon a few hours ago, the IDF began limited, localized, and targeted ground raids based on precise intelligence against Hezbollah terrorist targets and infrastructure in southern Lebanon. These targets are located in villages close to the border and pose an immediate threat to Israeli communities in northern Israel. The IDF is operating according to a methodical plan set out by the General Staff and the Northern Command, which IDF soldiers have trained and prepared for in recent months. The Israeli Air Force and IDF artillery are supporting the ground forces. Ooh, geez, artillery and air support at the same time? That's a fucking mess. Geez, that's one thing you don't want going on at the same time if you're a pilot. It's like, hey, there's incoming rounds. It's a kilometer away. Bro, I can't turn that hard. You better just do it up and over some shit. That's gotta be spooky if you're a pilot to have incoming fire from your own guys. Oof. All right.
I was gonna say even worse for the guys in the receiving end of that. You're getting it from all directions.
Oh yeah.
Jesus.
These operations were approved and carried out in accordance with the decision of the political echelon Operation Northern Arrows will continue according to the situational assessment and in parallel combat in Gaza and in other arenas. The IDF is continuing to operate to achieve the goals of the war, is doing everything necessary to defend the citizens of Israel and return the citizens of northern Israel to their homes. So they're doing it. They're doing it.
I saw this coming, though. As soon as those pagers went off, there were a lot of signs that this was about to happen. Right?
I said the same thing in my pager video. I was like, it would surprise me. They hadn't bombed the head of Hezbollah at the time. Because I think I put the video out Friday. Beepers? Did I put the video out Friday? The fucking beepers? I don't know. It might have been last week. When did the beepers kick off? It was last week, wasn't it?
Last week, yeah.
So
like early in the week, like Tuesday or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that Friday I put out a video. So yeah, I mean, really, it's only like 4 or 5 days ago.
It makes sense though if you kind of walk it through that, right? Disable thousands of their fighters.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I said. You nailed it. You nailed it. That's exactly what I said. I was like, why? What? It would really, to quote myself, I think I said it would really surprise me if Israel didn't do a push into Lebanon, because not only have you destabilized their communications, not only are you like having them scramble to try and like figure out, all right, what do we do now, right? Because of the communication. We'll just say that's part of the communications, right? Now you've injured so many people that are out of the fight, right? Or at least for the next couple days at a minimum. I mean, guys that got like massive wounds that are losing legs, they got their balls lopped off, that, you know, like can't see. Thousands, it was 500 at the last time that I counted. 500 people lost their eyesight or a damaged eyesight, which means, brother, how are you gonna boop yourself if you don't even know where you are, right? How are you gonna hit the IED trigger if you can't even tell which vehicle going in front of you is IDF or, you know, one of your guys in a Toyota? You can't. And then tertiary, what I thought was, along with, geez, I would say, I think the number one is the injury part, but a secondary to that is now you have every single hospital overwhelmed. Where are the wounded going to go now? What about the medical supplies that you're going to need in order to patch up people that are now in, you know, a frontline fight, right? They're moving north. I mean, it's literally like Russia and Ukraine. There's going to be trenches built. There are lines of occupation now. There is a linear drawing line where combat is now going to be affected. And yeah, I'm sure there's more tunnel systems, so it's going to be more of later on. It'll be more like an insurgency. But if you're just pushing in to just hit a couple targets that are within a mile or two of like your border, yeah, brother, everybody on this side's a bad guy and everybody behind me is good to go. Like,
a couple things. First off, I'm really glad we moved from Spetsnaz 007 to quoting yourself. I feel like that's a big.
I feel
come
like
a long ways. Very quickly here.
If I were ever to quote myself, I'd feel much more comfortable, because I know how steadfast and, you know, the high level of integrity I hold myself to when I'm reporting. You know, angry cops. A voice you can trust.
What I was going to say. Yeah, words out of my mouth. There's two things there that I feel like are kind of being not underreported, but not as much focus on. First off, Hezbollah right now is being run by the people that were not given communications devices. So think about that from the U.S. military perspective, right? You're on a deployment. Who gets a radio? Who doesn't get a radio? Now the company is being run by the guys that didn't get radios.
Right? Dude didn't even get a radio. Oh my God, that's a really good point. The dude didn't even get to know what. Oh my God.
That's one piece. The second piece is between Nasrallah getting killed and the pagers going off, senior leaders of their Radwan force, which is like their special operations,
yeah,
they said, hey, off grid, let's go meet in person. We can't trust these communications devices. Israel hit that target and killed 20 of their kind of special forces battalion commanders in one strike.
Listen, I'm going to say something, and it's going to sound arrogant. How special are these guys, the special forces of Hezbollah? Like, how good are they actually?
So they do have a fair amount of combat experience because they've been fighting in Syria for coming on 10 years now. So
Yeah, but I mean, they're fighting Syria.
This is not it's not the 75th Rangers. It's not anything like that. And it probably doesn't hold a flame to a lot of Israel's special operations forces, but it is unique in the sense that they look pretty Western, all things considered, and they were really designed to infiltrate into northern Israel.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're not supposed to say that.
They've got all the multicam.
No shit, because we left it all behind.
They are, whatever. Special forces, I think, in this sense, think of them as like the elite unit within Hezbollah.
Well, I mean, I know that's
been a concern.
I know that's what it is. What it means to them is that they're the elite unit of Hezbollah. But, like, what is the elite unit of Hezbollah compared to? My reserve, refueling unit? Could they hold their own against the Hezbollah special forces? Or
I think a good way to look at that group is more about like specifically trained for a mission set. That makes sense. Like specifically trained to infiltrate northern Israel. So
yeah.
maybe not the deadliest unit to run toe to toe with on the battlefield, but in that terrain, in that battle space, it was kind of the best that Hezbollah had to offer. And I know Israel took the Radwan force pretty seriously, but I don't know that we have a lot of examples of them outside of Syria. And they're just fighting militias, fighting Islamic State.
Well, I feel like they've got more of an upper hand in northern Iraq than they do in Syria because they've got the tunnel systems. They've got the support. They've been there forever. I don't want to say unchecked, but fairly unchecked, right? And if you've got a tunnel system, you've got a logistical system already in place, which is really supply, bullets and beans. If you don't have that shit figured out, then you're only going to be in war for a short amount of time. And then eventually when you run out of stuff, you're gone. But to go off what you're saying, I feel like what you're telling me is, what I'm getting out of it, is they're the most competent in the guerrilla warfare style of fighting against Israel that has been so successful previously. Okay.
If you could choose one unit to take out in your Israel before this war, it'd be the Radwan force.
I think that they would just go with all of Iran.
The IRGC.
Yeah,
most
just
effective
the
Hezbollah
entire
unit.
country, just the party, whatever party is and loves the mullah. They're going to be like, you know what? We'll give those guys beepers. And then, dude, I think I said it in one of my tweets, and if I didn't, I'm still proud of it. I'm just waiting for Israel to just, accidentally bomb the right people in Iran, so then Iran can go back to all those cool photos that you see on like Instagram of like, look at Iran in the 1970s before the radical change, right? And there's like everybody's in bikinis and they've got cars and nobody had Death to America flags all over the place. Like, that sounds like a good time, Maybe it's not the people. Maybe it's their choice of who they put in charge.
People they put in charge are looking kind of. We'll see. Maybe we'll be these words soon, but they're
say the word.
Looking kind of incompetent. Maybe it's hard to say exactly what's going on because they call themselves the Axis of Resistance, right? I don't know why they chose Axis.
Well, I don't know what they're resisting because they seem like a fucking drunk 23-year-old college student that is just putting it out there at all-you-can-drink karaoke night.
Not going well, man.
There's no resistance
not going
there.
well
That booty hall loose.
I like that. I like that how you got there.
Sorry. I'm taking your professional image and I'm dirtying it up. That's all I'm doing. You made a horrible mistake.
I like that, yeah.
You'll get negative 50,000 followers.
No, man, they're not. It's been the big concern. Israel killed the leader of Hamas in Tehran a few months ago.
Oh, that's right.
Iran's going to do something big.
Wasn't it? I don't know. I'm speaking out of my ass here. But wasn't it like an alarm clock or something? Some sort of device was planted in the room like a while ago. And then they were like, oh, we know that he's here now. His IP address is pinging off of this address again. Pow.
That was the most reported one. There were a couple others out there, but the most reported was like an explosive under his bed in the room that he always stayed in.
Oh, that's how you know it's
Tehran,
going to happen.
And Iran didn't do anything after that, and everybody was kind of waiting. We're still kind of waiting, and now this.
Like a receiving end to the device, like you're adding like an additional receiver into the beeper or the radio, what have you. Then, how easy, or do you have enough space to basically make it a repeater and go, oh, hey, Billy got this beeper message. Let's repeat it back over to IDF forces that pushed these things out already and collect intel on that. And then the same thing for the radios. Like, I don't feel like it's that much of a leap to go from, hey, yeah, we added some explosives in here, but we also made it so then some little microchip or doodad that's inside of it sends out a repeater and just copies that and then sends it out. So now we know, oh, hey, listen, 2,000 beepers just got sent a message. Something's popping off. What's the deal? Let's listen to the radios now that they're going to squawk back and forth on.
I think Israel has infiltrated Hezbollah in a couple different ways. Yeah, I mean, there was an argument that those beepers shouldn't have been blown up because maybe Israel could have been listening in or at least getting target location. Clearly, they had other abilities to target Hezbollah because after those pagers went off, they're still conducting strikes, taking out key leaders.
So one, the radios potentially, right? Two, I saw that fingerprint devices. So oh my gosh, not bioweapons.
I don't think that one was confirmed. The biometrics.
Biometrics. It wasn't?
I don't think that was confirmed.
I don't think so. Like a secondary thing, like somebody had their beeper up while they were scanning their thumb and it detonated and blew up that thing with it. Because I know there was a whole bunch of photos of it floating around.
There was a period of about 6 hours where people were reporting just about anything that has an electronic signal blowing up in Lebanon.
Yeah.
Like TVs and computers and solar dishes and stuff. I think it ended up solar dish. I feel like I just made that word up. I don't even know what that
solar panel?
Solar panel.
I know what you meant, man. I grew up with, DirecTV, so I got you.
I think when all the dust settled, I think it was just pagers and beepers. Did you see the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon?
Yes.
Wounded in that attack?
That was one of the things that I said. I was like, it's hard to know.
What?
We already knew, like everybody, like it was the most well-known secret, right? Iran is funneling money to Hezbollah. We knew it. Everybody knew it. To quote Donald Trump, everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. But nobody knew exactly who it was, right? Like, who is the guy that's actually the middleman between Iranian diplomacy and Hezbollah leadership, right? Well, wouldn't you know, the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon, his fucking pants explode. Sent him to the hospital. Turns out he's okay. Some people might call that a clue.
I saw some people say, well, it very well could have just been somebody next to him. And it's like,
fuck off.
Okay, fine. But if it is, what's he doing standing
right next
in
to
such
the
close
ambassador?
Proximity to a Hezbollah operative? Right, yeah.
Right, same question. All right.
Either way.
So what? It's just some random Hezbollah guys just hanging out with the Iranian ambassador? No, it's either a high-level guy that's talking to him or it's the Iranian ambassador.
This is a good time to remind anyone in the audience who's not familiar with this. Hezbollah is a designated terrorist organization.
It's true.
A political party in Lebanon, but 30-some countries around the world recognize Hezbollah as a terrorist organization. So to have the ambassador to your country with a direct means of communication handed out by a terrorist organization,
no.
It's one thing to maintain ties with the Taliban or something like that, but to have a Taliban pager, it's,
Well, sus. Preston, you seem like a man who's well-versed in history. The United States is one of those 30 countries that designate them a terrorist group, right?
Yeah.
So, did Hezbollah ever do some sort of terrorist attack on the United States or perhaps its military members?
They did. Of course, you're talking about the Beirut bombings in, was it 82?
Yeah, I think it was 82 or 83.
200 plus Americans killed in that bombing. But I've got another one for you too that's more recent. I was just looking up before we got started, and I don't want to quote it incorrectly. They set up a unit that helped fight American soldiers in Iraq. Hezbollah did.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I bet you that didn't go too well. Although I will
Small. It was.
I will say that on the
Shit,
Iranian
it's not
border, I know soldiers that lost friends to Iranian units that were trying to abduct American soldiers and had overwhelmed whatchamacallit, a convoy. I mean, it's not hard when you follow the blood trail of Americans to, the border of Iran.
Yeah. I don't think I have any more. Yeah, it's a specific Hezbollah unit that they set up to train militias in Iraq. And they took part in at least one operation to kidnap Americans. I believe they were successful. So, but it shouldn't be a surprise, right?
I wonder if that was the same unit that friend of a friend, or my buddy, lost his friend to. Let's see, Washington Post. The Israeli military said it launched localized targeted raids against Hezbollah. Oh, here was some key updates. Troops have crossed the line. 95 people have been killed in Israeli strikes on Monday. Lebanon's Ministry of Health said that 95 people had been killed in Israeli strikes Monday. It said 172 people are injured 2 hours ago. So that's right at the beginning. Once again, there are already a lot of injured people clogging up the hospitals.
Much room in those hospitals.
Let's see. IDF called on residents to evacuate 3 buildings and their surroundings in different neighborhoods in southern Beirut. You're located near interests and facilities belonging to terrorist Hezbollah, and therefore the IDF will act against them forcibly. Arabic language Israel Defense Force spokesman, so since I cannot even try, Viche, that might actually be correct, said Monday.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
What's that?
I think that's right. Yeah.
First,
I've got the unit here.
the song "I Took a Pill in Ibiza" just show Viche I was cool just popped into my head. But I'm sorry.
That's where it comes from. Yeah.
Of course.
The IDF Arabic language spokesperson. I'm surprised you didn't know that.
Great song. Go on. What were you saying about what you're talking about the Iranian Hezbollah forces that were trying to abduct troops?
So beginning in 2003, this is the Washington Institute. They say Hezbollah created Unit 3800, whose sole purpose was to support Iraqi Shiite militia targeting multinational forces in Iraq. Gave the militias the training, tactics, and technology to conduct kidnappings and small unit operations. The most prominent example was the January 20th, 2007 attack on the Joint Coordination Center in Karbala, which resulted in the death of 4 American soldiers. The operation was thoroughly planned with the help of Quds Force and Hezbollah.
Quds Force.
Determined later through the capture of one of Hezbollah's best trainers in Iraq. Hezbollah was in Iraq helping people kill Americans. So there you go.
Damn. See the weirdos in the chat, Truck Senpai. Breaking news. Multiple reports of exploding goats coming from Lebanon. Multiple patients admitted to hospitals with injuries to their groin area. Good to know. We've all been expecting that. Stay tight on that. I want to know more about that in future endeavors. Seems like that's a really... It sounds like that story is really concrete, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm trying to see if there's any new information about the raid into Lebanon, like some of the military targets that they're going for. So I have a question.
I'll look on some of the dirty Telegram channels. What you got?
So I have a question for you, right? So the map of Israel just like popped up, and I'm seeing like the massive swath of Gaza on the west or on the eastern side of Israel, and that's something I haven't heard a lot about right? So it's lower Palestine, where what would you call it? The Gaza Strip.
Gaza Strip is southwest. Are you talking about the West Bank and
West
kind of
Bank.
the eastern portion there?
No, I'm talking about the West Bank. So Gaza's Gaza's on the eastern side, right?
Mhm.
And then the what strip?
Sorry, no, Gaza's southwest. The West Bank is in the east. I see where this. Yeah, I see where.
Okay, there we go. So I was confused. Okay, so Gaza.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about Gaza. West Bank. That's what I've not heard a lot about of. Gaza's pretty much gone. I just see Israel going and saying Gaza doesn't exist anymore. We'll call it Gaza. Sure, we'll call it Gaza. That's cool. But we're just taking it over, and it's going to be Israel from now on because we're tired of dealing with this shit. So fucking deal with it. It's the kind of way that I see it. Now the Western Bank, much larger. What is going on with that? Like, what's the battle space looking in the Western Bank?
Pull up a map of West Bank settlements.
Uh-oh.
Make your head explode. It is so incredibly complicated there.
Yeah, because Israeli settlement, Wikipedia. Because I've heard that a lot of these like settlers are just like, we're just going into Palestinian land and we're just gonna sit there and sell it up, and then if anybody tries to move us, we're gonna shoot them. It's like a whole bunch of Israelis, like Jewish people.
It gets messy fast. So you've got the Palestinian Authority there that does not have a whole lot of authority, does not have a lot of legitimacy. There are armed groups like Hamas in the West Bank that are carrying out attacks. And then you've got Israeli settlers that are moving into what is supposed to be Palestinian land and taking it essentially by force. Some of the guys that I really pay attention to in this space will not stop talking about the West Bank being on the verge of just going up in flames. There's pretty constant attacks there. If Israel's not carrying out counterterrorism raids, you've got Hamas or an affiliate carrying out attacks or trying to carry out attacks against Israelis there. But if you look at that settlement map, you can see, like, at least with Gaza, it's a small area. And you can say, this is Gaza. And then here's the fence and here's the border, and now you're in Israel. And the West Bank is just all mixed up, man.
I don't know if I want to look at real policy forum. Map. Was trying to look at a map that was.
It doesn't even need to be a recent one, really. It changes a lot, but really what we're looking for are the. You know what? Let me see if I can find a good one.
I saw one that I wanted to look at. Arab State, Jerusalem District, Jewish State.
Yeah. West Bank control map. If you type that in, gives you some good ones.
Control map?
Yeah, West Bank control map. And if you just look at images. Are you on Twitter or on Google?
I just went over to Google.
Yeah, Google. You're just going to see maps with like too many colors to make sense.
Yeah, I see
That's the
three
West Bank.
colors, area A, B, and C, which is cool. A,
Exactly.
administered by Palestinian Authority. B, administered by Palestinian Authority. Shared security control with Israel. And C is administered by Israel. So A is Palestinian, B is a mix, and C is Israeli. So basically, anywhere that's not a mountain is Israel has it. And then every place that's mountainous looks like primarily Palestinian. I'd say half of the Palestinian areas are the Palestinian and Israeli controlled, where it's like a dual citizenship thing.
Pockets of space too, right? It's not like a parallel north south. It's just like dots on the map.
It looks like a coral reef. Honestly, it looks like if it looks like the Israeli controlled area is a body of water, and then the Palestinian controlled area are like a chain of islands.
Yep.
But I guess, I mean, wouldn't it be easier to take that over, to like cut off each section at a time instead of having to go after Gaza like as its whole thing with a border against Egypt where there's like underground places? I feel like this might be easier to take a bite off at a time.
Israel's had much more control over the West Bank than they have of Gaza in recent years.
I don't want to say like I'm an expert because I'm not, but I haven't heard the West Bank in the news nearly as much as Gaza since I've been fucking born.
Yeah, it's not close. And there's still, IED attacks there, occasionally rocket launches, but Israel's done a pretty good job. There's a ton of checkpoints in the West Bank. They've done a pretty good job in terms of tamping down any sort of terrorist activity there. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there's a very legitimate argument that it's been pretty heavy-handed, and it's kind of allowing that sentiment to boil up. So it's not a safe place, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a, you'll hear folks these days refer to Israel fighting a 7-front war, because you got the West Bank, active engagements there, Gaza, Lebanon with Hezbollah, you've got militias in Iraq, militias in Syria, you've got Iran, and then you've got the Houthis in Yemen. Every one of those groups has attacked Israel in the last year.
What is going on with Yemen? Like, we've had our fingers in Yemen for frickin' ever, and we what? We just decided that we're just going to let it be like this horrible civil war for forever? Just get out. Just let Saudi Arabia doesn't even want to touch it. Saudi Arabia is so busy with them fighting each other. You know what I feel? Let me tell you what I feel, Preston.
Let's hear it.
Me speaking out of my ass, right? I'm just saying words here. Okay. So this is what I feel. I feel like a lot of Arab countries know that people want their own space, different tribes, right? Even Sunni and Shia, right, battle within one another, right? And I feel like they have to keep some sort of conflict going between two different peoples, right? So then, and I'll give you an example, right? Let's say that Iran wants to keep the Houthis fighting the Israelis and Hamas fighting the Israelis, because they know that if they don't have like a rallying cry to be like, yeah, fuck those guys, that eventually all of its people are going to look inward and go, we should fight each other now for more power, or for a change of power, or to retain power. And I see that in Saudi Arabia. I see that because Saudi Arabia is trying, like, I don't want to say they're trying to be Western, but when all these freaking Saudi princes are driving out into the middle of the desert to have like banger alcohol-filled parties, and everybody knows that they do it, but they're like, no, we're good. Muslims, well, you're fucking trying to cheat the system. You're getting hammered in the fucking desert. Everybody knows it. United States comedians go over there. The freaking, the OnlyFans girls get flown out there so then they can get shit on. Literally. Called an Arab porta potty.
I have heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real thing. Like, OnlyFans girls are like, I got paid $20,000 to like go into a hotel. And
that's the number.
In Saudi Arabia, and I get paid like $20,000, and they just poop on me because I'm an American.
Yeah.
And that's it.
All they do.
Like, yeah. So I feel like that's Yemen. I feel like that's Gaza. That's Hezbollah. That's the Western Bank. I feel like all these other Arab countries are like, we need to keep fighting Israel and just keep these forever wars going, just so nobody really looks in and like tries to fuck with us. Because when that does happen, sometimes those people get jacked up real bad, and then immediately after, there's always some sort of terrorist explosion in Israel, to which Israel responds with, right? But then they all get upset with the response. That's me just, red stringing it from different points. Who is Pepe Sylvia? I'm just being weird.
All about Pepe, man.
All about Pepe.
The male. It's a valid point in that a lot of these countries, they want the focus external, because when people start looking internal, they start seeing things like corruption.
Especially
corruption's
Iran.
Kind of a big one.
Especially Iran.
But a big issue with the Houthis, I think, is that if they stop attacking the United States and Israel, they'll have to get a new flag. And we all know, just like the administrative cost and like the bureaucracy of having to get a whole, on their flag, it says "Death to America, a curse upon the Jews." What are you going to do with that?
Is that the green flag with the red, with the yellow handwriting? It says "Death to America." What about the Jews?
A curse upon the Jews.
There are people flying that shit.
You don't want to have to get a new flag, right? Like, think how long that could take.
In the United States at like protests, like right now. Do they?
Yeah.
They're so stupid. Because I saw a couple people like walk around with the Hezbollah flag, and I was like, why are you walking around the Hezbollah flag? Like that's a straight up terrorist organization. I don't know what their flag says, but I know what the flag looks like. It's a fucking hand with a rifle with an AK up in the air. Iconic.
It's Hezbollah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Hezbollah. What did I say?
I don't know, but the Houthi one is the one that, it's the green and red with just the text on it. God is the greatest, death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews, victory to Islam.
Allahu Akbar.
And they'd have to get a new one, right? Like, cross all that out.
Yeah.
Who knows
The
how many
Jews aren't
people
so
have
bad.
to approve a new flag?
America's
right?
got cool.
So,
America's beepers don't blow up.
so that's what my money's on.
We just need to put some libertarians over there, and just like kind of like poison the well a little bit with like you guys, their point of view over here. Like everybody owns a gun. You guys own a gun. Like, it's too much government, right? Then they just fly them all back, and then they're there. They already spread their information around, and now you got a whole bunch of like Houthis, Hezbollah guys, and people in and around. They're like, we have too much government. Overthrow the monarchy. Let's go.
Turn on themselves.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We used to export freedom. Now we're going to export something else.
Brother, do we? When did that stop? Bruh. I don't know. Like the older I get, the more I feel like all the good ideas that like United States had, like let's stop the spread of communism. All right, let's go in Korea. You're like, all right, well, probably should have fought the Russians right after World War II, but
that'd have been rough. Yeah.
I mean, I guess we can like stop China. Like the people that are still using like horses and donkeys and shit. Like those ideals, okay. Well, right. We'll protect the people, and then MacArthur pushes too far, and like China then like pushes back, in northern Korea, and then Vietnam happens, and then we just the amount of politics that got involved there prevented us from, just bombing the ever living shit out of the Ho Chi Minh Trail and just basically making like another North Korea South Korea thing. Hey, ceasefire, stop fucking with them, go do your own thing up there. But even then, in the long run, I feel like freedom won in Vietnam.
It was dirty. It was nasty for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Vietnam's doing fine. I don't know that
McDonald's in China too, baby.
I don't know that I would say that we helped to get them there.
That's true. I mean, South Vietnam was like, all right, we've got an idea. And North Vietnam was like, no, we don't like your idea. I'm trying to get updates.
Maybe Afghanistan will be a nice place to visit in 20 years.
I don't know. Has it ever been since like Alexander the Great?
There was a time I remember hearing people say that like hippies used to travel through there.
Yeah, to smoke opium. Maybe in 1910.
There's airstrikes in Syria now.
Syria is just the bombing place of the world
right now. There's always airstrikes in Syria.
Nobody gives a shit about Syria. Iran doesn't give a shit about Syria.
They're saying Damascus. They're saying Israel carried out airstrikes in Damascus.
We need to pull up aerial view Damascus. That's pretty far inland into Syria.
Yeah, but you said it. I heard it referred to as a free fire zone earlier.
Mm-hmm. Anything
Syria
goes
is
in
just
Syria.
kind of
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like,
and who's going to stop them? Right. I mean,
like, who gives a shit? Nobody cares. Who's the guy that's in charge? He's like the prince, but president. Assad. What's his deal? Is he like I've been sick for the past couple of days and I get this throat tickle that will not go away. Would you consider Assad to be kind of like Saddam Hussein, where he was like, it was a coup, but he elected himself in like these bullshit elections, and he's not the king, but he's like setting it up to be like a monarchy, but not a monarchy in name? What would you say Assad is? Because I thought it was like a monarchy.
Yeah, I'd probably stop at dictator just because I'm not super familiar with the politics of Syria, but like he's locked in being in charge for the indefinite future. I
So
mean, especially through this civil war.
I feel like it's totally like Saddam Hussein, like the Ba'ath Party. It controlled everything. They had elections. Nobody won except for Saddam. The people who ran that were getting close, they were gone.
The only issue in Syria is that Assad still doesn't control the whole country. So there's still portions of the country that are under the not, or at least contested. Right? I mean, there's a reason that it's considered a free fire zone for the U.S. We still carry out airstrikes in portions of Syria. Russia still has operations going on in Syria. Again, it's chaos there.
I feel like people aren't aware that we faced Russian Wagner Group forces in Syria and decimated them 2 years ago.
2018, I think.
Oh, so Jesus! Oh my God, I'm getting old. Like 2 years, 6 years seems like 2 years to me, and that's not even a joke. Yeah, it was 2018, if you're correct. It was basically, I forget what we were doing there. It might have been us like wiping out ISIS, but I know that we were securing some sort of oil fields or oil derricks, and it was a SOF unit. It was like maybe an 82nd Airborne element, but it was mainly SOF forces, Special Operations Forces, if I'm not incorrect. And they were like, hey, there's some guys in tanks and armored vehicles coming up. I think they're Russian based on all their equipment. Hey, Commander, why don't you call up the Russian guys and see if that's them? American commander says, hey, are there any Russian guys over here? Because we see some Russian guys. Russian guys like, no, of course there are no Russian guys going to attack you. No, of course not. That sounds crazy. You sound crazy. They're like, okay, cool. All right, but everything looks Russian. Even the men. Like, they're white.
They're speaking Russian.
They stand out. They got Wagner patches on. You sure? No, we have no people over there. They're fine. Okay. A1 Spectre gunship. Artillery. Guys shooting like M203 or the Mark 19s and shit. And just leveling these guys. Leveling. There was like 400 dead. And like 150 got away. I think it was like 700 total. I don't know if I did a story on it. But I did some, I think I did research to like do a story on it. And then I just never did a video. But it was like 700 troops. And like 450 of them are dead. And then they were like, hey, please stop shooting at those guys. They're definitely not us.
Did you see in a FOIA request, so Freedom of Information Act request, like in the last year or something, it came out that one of those operators was awarded the Air Force Cross, that battle.
Say what again?
One of the, had to have been the JTAC, but was awarded the Air Force Cross.
That makes sense, because the JTAC was calling in shit. Truck Senpai had an outpost, secured outpost, was assaulted by large groups of local fighters, reinforced by Wagner PMC, and it was U.S. drone, air, and artillery fire, not so much direct fire. Thank you.
The numbers there are shocking. There was one American ally, SDF, Syrian Defense Force, wounded in that entire engagement. And to your point, like hundreds killed. That was a big sticking point between Wagner and the Russian military. Because they called up because they felt like they were left out to dry. They were like, hey guys, they tried to get some degree of Russian support to come in or to call off the Americans or to find something. And the Russian government at that point was still very much like, look, we don't know who this Wagner group is. They're not really us. It's a private company. So the Prigozhin and the Wagner folks at that time were like, guys, what the fuck? Like, hundreds of our guys got killed because you wouldn't, Shoigu, the defense minister at the time, like, you wouldn't do anything. You wouldn't call off the Americans. There's a little bit of tension there.
Let's go down a little bit of a Russian rabbit hole there. Let's go down a little bit of a Russian rabbit hole while we're talking about conflicts, right? We're talking about Israel. We're waiting for more information to come up based on the Israel going into Lebanon. What's his name? Was Sheboygan?
Yes. The defense minister, Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
So, right, dude.
Shoigu. It's close.
I'm unintentionally insulting. Prigozhin, the head of Wagner Group
Prigozhin.
at the time, no longer, makes the push into Russia, right? During the Russian-Ukrainian war. Gets like it was like Hitler. He got like 10 kilometers outside of Moscow and just stopped and said, "Okay, everybody let us in here. We're waving and we didn't kill anybody, but we totally could have. This is just to show you that we're upset. Please, okay? All right, I love you. Your generals suck. They're not listening to me, and that's all I did this for." Bro, why did he stop? He could have been the only person to have gone into Russia and overtook Russia, and it would have been like that. I feel like the United States is only getting like a small view of the Russian people, and all the media is controlled by the Russian state. So all Americans are getting, all Western Europe is getting, is just like the Russian war front and how proud they are, and not like the people that are like in the backwoods, like mountaineers in Virginia that we have here. They're like, we don't trust the fucking government, man. Hell no, brother. Now we got a hurricane here in the fucking Carolinas, and fucking Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who's supposed to be our president in like a couple months, ain't giving us fucking shit yet. Fuck them. Fuck that government. Tell me there aren't Russians that are like that way? I'm waiting to. They would have picked up their pitchforks and their unfortunately dead children that got conscripted into the Russian army and would have been like, no, we're done with this. We're done with this. We don't need Ukraine for all this. For some natural gas, get fucked.
I think what ended up happening with Prigozhin is he got over his skis. I don't think he ever expected to be able to like move like that through Russia. He thought there'd be more pushback.
And then he was like, uh-oh.
The dog caught the car, right? And he's like, I don't even know what to do. What do I do now? Do I start firing on Moscow?
Yeah.
So I think there's that. But also, nobody was lining up behind him. So, like in terms of like official figures or influential people, they weren't really lining up behind Putin, but nobody was coming to his corner. So I think a lot of people were like, let's just see what happens here.
Yeah, I think if they would have, if he would have gotten some satellite phone calls and been like, go for it, I think he might have pushed a little bit more. But I think everybody else is just like, what is Prigozhin doing? Wasn't he the cook like 6 years ago?
I mean, they cleaned house, man. After that, they're just like, we're not messing around with this Wagner stuff anymore.
Oh yeah, they just sent them to the front. All of them dead. Are they? But
scattered
the
them.
Thing is they're still like bumping in Africa.
Africa Corps. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? History repeats itself, man.
I don't care what anybody says. I made a video about that, and people were like, that's what you call a corps-sized unit in Africa. It's not a corps-sized unit. It's like a battalion-sized element, and nobody calls their unit in Africa the Africa Corps.
Because
Africa Command is not the same as Africa Corps.
Correct.
Africa Corps is what the Nazis called it.
Yes.
Just don't do that. Just don't choose the Nazi name. That's all. Any other name. But
right?
That's a lot to ask.
I mean, if you ask 17th, or what was it? 17th Special Forces Group?
Oh, yeah, the patch.
The patch. Listen.
Come on, guys.
The skull is iconic. All right? That skull's iconic. Now, you might look at it when you're scrolling through the internets if you're a little dull and go, wow, that skull looks really cool. Why does it look so cool? Something about it stands out. Let's throw it on a patch real quick. No. The only thing it didn't have was the swastika in it. That's the only thing it didn't have.
Couldn't figure out why I remembered that. Yeah, there was it was a couple years ago. It was a National Guard state put out an advertisement for the National Guard, and it was some text over a background of soldiers marching. The soldiers marching were German World War II. You know what I'm talking about?
I did a video on that one. Yep. Yeah, I did a video on that one. Turns out that it was not actual like 1940s German soldiers. It was reenactors. Which is it's
feel a little better.
It feels a little bit better, yeah. Yeah, because it's like, I mean, if you had like, vote Democrat, and you had a whole bunch of Confederate soldiers, carrying the Confederate battle flag when you were in Georgia, you'd be like, ooh, we don't want to go back to that. That's not good. You're like, no. Oh, sorry. They're reenactors. Like, the history was weird, but, this is who we are, and there's history. And you're like, ugh, that's still... You couldn't tell from, like, the non-American uniform?
Mistakes happen.
Mistakes do
Social
happen.
media stuff. Hezbollah hasn't said anything. All they're doing is talking about explosions.
Yeah, I've got just some random person saying Damascus, Syria, according to updates, Syrian media, they're injured on scene. Random buildings on fire. It's really not telling me more than that. And I don't know who this person is, so grain of salt.
It was reliable to me.
Yeah. Like, I'll say stuff out loud, but I'll immediately go, I don't really know about this. All right, look up something. See if you can't find something on the internet. I'm gonna grab a drink because my throat's killing me. Be right back.
Yeah, go. All right, I'm gonna try to find some other. Oh, there we go. It's right at the top.
Feel free to tell people where you're located so that they can follow you.
Yeah, located on all social media platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, all the good stuff. All right, so I know you can't see my screen. I don't think I have the right to share my screen here. But anyway, we're on Telegram, the dirty Telegram app, looking at the Iranian or Lebanese state media or Hezbollah media. It's called Al-Manar, Almanar. Seeing if they put anything out. Mostly just about Syria. Saying that the strikes in Syria killed 3 people. Explosions in Tel Aviv. I haven't seen anything about that. I guess we got some videos from Hezbollah talking about some more strikes in Beirut. I don't think this thing's going to stop anytime soon. I'm pretty sure we're going to wake up in the morning to pretty significant action from Israel. Which we'll get into this. Rich and I'll get into this in a second. But the big concern here is that Hezbollah has like 150,000 rockets and missiles that they could launch into Israel. Not all at once, but it's enough to overwhelm Israel's air defenses. We all get kind of spoiled, like Israel and Ukraine and the United States being able to shoot down and intercept weapons whenever they're fired, missiles, rockets, drones, things like that. And Israel's been really good at doing that so far. They've intercepted most of the munitions Lebanon has fired or Hezbollah has fired, but they do have so many at their disposal that they could overwhelm the Israeli air defense if they really decided to get after it one time, which they haven't quite yet, fortunately. Nothing breaking in that time period. I was just mentioning how the concern for Hezbollah or the concern for Israel is that Hezbollah has so many rockets and missiles they could potentially overwhelm Israeli air defenses. They haven't done that yet.
Yes. Well, that's also been, I think, the bombing runs earlier into Lebanon for this was one of those things because they had IDF put out a whole bunch of videos of them literally showing live video heat signatures of missiles, different surface-to-air missiles in like the second or first floor of buildings and then taking them out. And one of them was like an amazing overlay of like 12 buildings. They're like, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one all have missiles in it. Look at it. And then they put like a digital overlay over it. And they were like, they're all going to go away now.
Yeah, the degree of targeting that they're able to carry out hundreds of strikes and hit so many of these locations so quickly, I think it shows that they've been watching this for a long time. So I think a lot of these locations, Hezbollah has tunnels. They have kind of missile pits and areas where they kind of hide the weapons along the border. I think there was this idea that maybe those were all hidden and Israel didn't know where they were, but it's looking more and more like they know exactly where those are. And every time one of those launchers pokes its head out, it gets hit. I think Israel's been watching this for 18 years now.
God, I love Twitter, but you got to filter it. I got this guy who has, it looks like an Iraqi and Palestinian flag. And then he's like, well, this is what happens. And he's like showing video that could be potentially Fires in Tel Aviv because Tel Aviv is getting struck with missiles.
Tel Aviv. There's a couple Israeli Telegram channels I follow that are quick to say something goes wrong. So they're not, you've got the official accounts that will wait, kind of sugarcoat stuff, but a couple of these say it right away. There's nothing about impacts in Tel Aviv.
I don't think you're ever gonna guess this guy's handle. But 1 hour ago, he's barely factual. He's got a news video live feed. Israel just started its invasion of Lebanon, also hitting the country with airstrikes. But his name is Lord Farquaad, teller of truth.
All right, good enough for me.
Right, Lord Farquaad.
Anytime somebody puts truth in their name, I feel like give them the benefit of the doubt.
They're a truth teller.
Yeah. Lord Farquaad. What is that from?
You know who Lord Farquaad is?
I'm drawing a blank.
Lord Farquaad? Hold on, don't even look it up. No, let's guess it. Let's think it out.
It's too late.
Damn it, you did it. You already did it. Shrek.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have gotten that.
You know who Lord Farquaad is from Shrek?
I do now. I wasn't gonna get there on my own. I needed Google.
I was gonna lead you there. I was gonna give you some hints. I was gonna, bread trail you.
Okay, that would have been fun. Yeah, I don't know about explosions in Tel Aviv. I don't think that actually happened. I can't find that anywhere else.
I'm not getting anything. Dude, just the hashtag Lebanon, nothing's popping up. And it says it's trending.
There's not much coming out of Lebanon. Let's find some IRGC channels. These are always interesting. Oh, they say no trace of the Zionist military has been observed yet in southern Lebanon. So Iranian media is saying that it hasn't happened. Israeli media is saying that it has.
Listen.
What? You telling me somebody's lying?
Dude, just being on this earth, if you said Israeli news source and then Arabic news source, one, I would be like, I would just give you a look. Because I think the first time, if you said, hey, Rich, an Israeli news source said this, I'd be like, okay, interesting. And then if you said the same thing to me and then ended it with, this comes from an Arabic news station, I'd be like, oh, I'd eye roll. I did so much passive intelligence gathering in Iraq, my second tour, by listening to politicians speak, taking local and national news, and also smaller ethnic news stations, and putting together passive intelligence gathering, articles and stuff like that for higher ups and shit. That I would every fucking day. I'm like, oh, the most honorable man is doing this thing today, which will bring us together and improve the overall well-being and spirit of the people. It's the most biggest loaded shit I've ever heard in my life. Stupid.
Didn't happen.
Dude, everything that's good is 10 billion times good. Everything that's bad is it is a black Saturday. It every bad day was every day of the week was black because just every day some horrible tragedy happened. Ishmael kicked his goat and then it toppled over a bus. It is a Black Tuesday.
Worst. It's one of the challenges following Russia and Ukraine. I can generally find, an attack happens in a city. I can pretty quickly find the Russian perspective and the Ukrainian perspective. Sometimes it takes a few hours, but I can generally get two sides of a story that are close enough, and you can kind of pick apart okay, each side is going to kind of be more biased towards their own. When it comes to the war, especially in Gaza, it's two different stories. they're not they never talk about the same events to where like you can't use one side to check the other, if that makes sense.
There are occasions, and one of them, I'll give you an example, was when Hamas said that Israel like intentionally bombed some building or something like that.
Early on, was it that parking lot, the hospital parking lot?
At the hospital parking lot. But what it ended up being was that like it was a Hamas rocket that had failed to properly eject, and it just like it was a dud. It went up like 80 feet or however short it went, and then landed in the parking lot and exploded. And Israel's like, no, we've got all the missile tracking shit. Here you go. That's one reason why I find Israel to be, or at least it's, for the most part, for it to be a far more believable news source, the sources that come out of Israel, than I do anything out of Gaza or the West Bank. Just because they'll actually like throw the stats at you and be like, no, we're tracking everything. Here it is, not us. Or they'll like go into the hospital that they ended up bombing and saying like, hey, look at this sweet underground network where all this, munitions were stored. Aren't you not supposed to do that?
Yeah.
Because I've seen that once or twice too.
Israel's gotten better at it. They've made some like really, really bad sloppy mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
It just
but they've
really
also
killed their credibility.
A lot of the mistakes too. Some of them they were like, that was us. We didn't think it was at first. We fucked up. You're never gonna get that from the other side.
No, but it was the kind of fuck up to where people were like, people still point to it. Like there was one where the dude pointed at a calendar on the wall and said it was like a guard roster, and people still call that out as like, we can't believe Israel because don't you remember that one thing? It's like that was such an easy thing to not get wrong.
Right.
It was there's a few people in the IDF that speak Arabic. Probably could have resolved that one pretty quickly. It's little things like that.
We had one of them come over and teach our police department and other neighboring agencies about like undercover operations that they do. Like, oh, this is what we do, blah blah. And it's this unassuming guy, and he's showing us like some of the guy's videos, and you're like, dude, you're doing some heinous shit, man. Like in a good way. Like you're abducting dudes in fucking trucks. That's awesome. We can't do that here. I mean, we could if we had a good warrant, but you gotta be careful how you do that shit. In the States, you roll up with like nothing that says police and then just abduct a dude. You're like, nah, man, they got a right to self-defense if you're not like, hey, police, by the way.
I feel like police and abduct usually isn't something we
No, that is not something that we put together. Those are two words that do not happen. Let's see. Go to a couple of my super chats. Cracklin. Is Israel moving now because American politicians don't want to get involved because of the presidential elections? You're never going to see, involved how? We're already giving them aid. We're not going to be putting boots on ground in Israel's war against Hezbollah and then put us against Lebanon. We've been in the Middle East for 20 years. I don't think either politician wants to get involved in a land war right now. Let's see. See ya, Truck. Appreciate you. Suki, you say, I see a lot of you. I don't know what that means, racist. I see a lot of you use word propaganda. Don't think you know what it means. Worry no more, I'm here. It means spreading of ideas, information, or rumors.
I think it's a term that's been overused to the point of making it almost meaningless recently.
Oh, like Nazi?
Yeah. Just too often propaganda is something that the other side does to the point, like the other side's point of view even, or opinion.
Yeah.
And, I think it's pretty heavily overused.
I'm with you there. Somebody stating their opinion
Real thing.
Isn't Russian propaganda. It could just be them stating their opinion. Now it might go alongside some Russian talking points. That doesn't mean it's propaganda. I will say, however, a term that I do I think we need to bring back, and I've said it once or twice, is yellow journalism. Do you remember what yellow journalism was back in our history books?
Yeah.
Teddy Roosevelt was a huge proponent against yellow journalism, which was just intentionally slanted journalism. That instead of like painting the picture of what actually was happening, it was with intent putting I'll say negative slant on it, because oftentimes yellow journalism was used in order to make somebody look dumb, stupid, foolish, or their policies, paint them in a negative light. So I think there's a lot more yellow journalism now, and journalism has taken a step back to that Teddy Roosevelt day.
The original clickbait, isn't it? Same idea.
Mm-hmm. Let me actually look up the definition of yellow journalism, just because I want to.
It's a huge problem now. I mean, I don't know what you do about it. I don't know what you can do about it, but
tell me if this sounds familiar. A style of sensationalistic reporting that uses exaggerated headlines and other techniques to increase newspaper sales. You fucking nailed it with clickbait, dude. I mean, the New York Post
that's
might
a
be the
YouTube
best
strategy.
at it.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I mean, I'm sure it's something you think about when you're putting a video out. Like, how do you walk that line between interesting and provocative, maybe even, but not clickbaity or sensational? Yeah, there's a lot that clearly crosses that line.
A second definition: the use of lurid feature sensationalized news and newspaper publishing to attract readers and increase circulation. It was just over exaggeration. I thought that there was like a negative twist to it, but it's just over exaggeration either way.
How did that? But that never went away. I'm a little confused, because I remember the yellow journalism being a thing that I remember hearing about it, and learning about it, but
I think it subsided for a little bit, and then and it was just like you would. I think yellow journalism and the sensationalization of news was bigger then, and it kind of subsided because news agencies realized that they didn't really need to over-sensation, because print kind of went away, right? Print went away. It was kind of radio. So it was just like, hey, let's talk about this thing. And then television came around, and they might do like stoppages for certain events, like the presidential assassination, but that's not sensationalism, right? It's a huge event. World War II happened. Pearl Harbor struck. These are real things that have a sort of weight about them. But I will say that I think it came back in the 90s, late 90s, because that's when I started like growing older and paying attention to the news. And then definitely in the early 2000s after 9/11, where the internet came around, clickbait, and then it evolved into now the social media thing of, how good can you make your YouTube thumbnail point thing, whatever, to catch people's eye, and then whatever. So I think it subsided a little bit, but then once this new medium came up and everybody got really familiar with television, then it changed and went right back to sensationalism. And I think we've been trapped in the sensationalism for a while now.
You see it on every app too, though. Like if you pull up Instagram or TikTok or anything, like or even Twitter, like people you spend time thinking about what is the very first word I say or the first sentence I put out there. What's the first thing they see? It's kind of that to a degree, right?
I guess I don't put that much thought into it, though.
I'm not saying that you do, but I think isn't that part of the game? Like for somebody making a reel, for instance. How can they the first?
You're right with reel, but if we're going to talk about Twitter, there are definitely a couple accounts that I follow, and I think one of them I couldn't follow anymore because all he did was just rage bait. It was just breaking. This thing happened, and some of it was just complete. It was posting without thinking. It was regurgitating a thought or a hypothesis of what could have happened, or maybe theory, which ended up being not at all what happened. I mean, I forget this fucking kid's name, but he's like a right-wing guy that does that, and he annoys the shit out of me. I think his name's like Kyle something. I won't even say his name. Not Rittenhouse. Like Kyle. That Kyle's cool.
There's plenty out there, though. I know what you're talking about. Where I will follow them. I'll see some of their stuff and follow them for a little bit, and then be like, I can't. It's 80% wrong. It doesn't do me any good to see it.
Or it's just everything is sensationalized. Kamala Harris said that. Donald Trump's response to this. Joe Biden shits himself again. And I'm like, police officer puts gun in toddler's mouth. What are we? Just completely untrue. But things like that. Over sensationalized things like that. Bilbo Baggins caught in gay orgy.
All right.
Okay.
Here you go. I'll click on that. Need to know. I'm watching the Lord of the Rings one on Amazon right now, so it's relevant.
I just watched Nerdrotic's breakdown of how bad it is. I can't waste my time.
Oh no, is it bad? I kind of like it.
Do you? I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I grew up I was like 5 or 6, and my mother would read me the books, and so I've always liked it, and I've read them on my own.
Maybe that's it. Like, I like Lord of the Rings, but I'm not like, I constantly feel like I'm losing track of what's happening. So it's entertaining. Maybe it doesn't like match with the actual story or something. That
is like the big push against fans of things and streaming services right now, to include like Disney Plus and everything, right? Is you have these people that these production companies and streaming services will say, hey, do you like this? We're going to make that for you. And all the people that like, let's say Lord of the Rings. You like Lord of the Rings? We're going to make Lord of the Rings for you. And everybody likes Lord of the Rings. It's like, oh my God. Yes, that's great. We love Lord of the Rings. Please make Lord of the Rings for us. And then they go, awesome. You're really going to like what we did with it. Oh, we can't wait to see what you did with it. They go, well, it's got nothing to do with all the shit that you've read about. We're going to do our own thing with it that will fuck up everything that you know about it. And then all the fans go, but what? Why? Why would you do that? We already love this thing. Just make this thing that we love. And then the streaming services are like, we got a great idea. We're going to put a chick in her and make her lame and gay, to quote South Park.
It's like the thing that you love, but nothing like that.
Yeah. It's like you know what it's like? It's like Pet Sematary. Like, originally you gave birth to your son, and then, which is J.R.R. Tolkien, writing the books, and you're like, oh my God, I love this baby boy. And then J.R.R. Tolkien's, works stop. Eventually he dies, or he just stops writing about it. Same thing with George R.R. Martin. I'm using the extra R for Tolkien too much. And so that's the kid getting hit by the car in Pet Sematary.
Cemetery.
Yep. And then, you're like, I need to take my son and put him in Pet Sematary because I saw what he did for the Ninja Turtles franchise. But then you've got, not the old man, like George Lucas, who's just like, don't do it, man. Sometimes dad is better, and you're like, no, I know better, George Lucas. No, dad is better. And no, I'm going to bury him. And then you bury Tolkien in the Pet Sematary. And then, he comes back. And he's Lord of the Rings, but he's evil. And, and he chases you and your wife throughout the house with a kitchen knife, which is you trying to enjoy it, but you can't because you're just like, what's going on? There was a thing that I loved and now it's different.
Yeah, I don't want a dead author chase me around my house with a knife. I don't know.
Yeah, or like your fandom. Like, it's your love for the thing has now died and become changed.
But this is also what sucks about the internet is like yesterday or 5 minutes ago, I liked that show. And now I'm kind of thinking maybe I don't like that show anymore.
Don't let me change you. If you like it because you didn't read the books and it's an entertaining show, you should love it. I got no hate with people liking stuff.
Worth it. It's worth a watch, I think, but not to any hardcore fans there.
I will say this, like the one thing that I was thinking about watching it because I heard the first season was kind of weird. It ended at kind of strange, but like, there were some character flaws, but I was like, man, I can get over some character flaws. Like, whatever. The first season's out. I'm probably going to go watch it. And then I was watching one of the breakdowns by Nerdrotic, and it was an orc that looked human-like because this is like thousands of years before Lord of the Rings takes place, is the current series. And it's so these orcs for some reason now look similar to the elves that they came from. And the orc is like, I don't want to go to war. I fear war. I'm tired of war. And I've got my wife here and she has a baby. And I'm like, orcs don't have babies. Orcs don't have families. Orcs are bastardized versions of good that are evil. There is no good that comes from them. The Orokai get dug up out of the ground. Orcs don't fuck. Orcs don't fuck, Preston. And they especially don't like coddle their young ones and like, and cower.
See, I'm glad we're having this conversation because I didn't know any of that stuff. I'm learning here.
It made me sick.
This is great.
Yeah, I think it was even before I saw the breakdown of it. I saw that clip that somebody had posted and said, what is this? And I looked at it and I watched it. It was like a minute long. And I was like, I 100% agree. What the fuck is this? And then I was just like, I don't even want to watch it, man. If you're gonna do, it's like taking the Lion King and then killing Simba. It's like, yeah. This is one of like the things that we know. It's good and evil. Like what? So anyway, yeah. And that's how we got from Lebanon to the Lord of the Rings. And sometimes that is better.
I've got an assessment here, a wild take, hot take.
Give me a hot take.
The war. What if Israel tricked us? Because nobody's talking about it right now. There's no information coming out of Israel. There's no information coming out of Lebanon. It's weirdly silent.
What if it's a psyop? What if they just put it out on Twitter and put it through like official channels and they're just like, and this is like to get them to start talking on different cell phones and stuff for them to pick up on frequencies that are like, beep, beep, like, oh, this is 10 times more active now that we said that we're invading. Interesting.
They scheduled a tweet for a day too early or something, right? It's supposed to be like 9 or 1.
Dude, for the way that they've handled this entire, like, especially the beeper thing, for the way that they've handled all of this, the push, since October 7th, I'm like, they're not doing anything accidentally.
Like it's been
5:53,
3 hours. It's been about 3 hours since they announced publicly that they had moved into Lebanon. Since then, the only news that's come out is there were airstrikes in Syria and a drone was shot down over the Mediterranean. That's it.
I've got a guy putting up his air conditioning unit under #Lebanon, which is supposed to be trending.
Yeah, for an announcement of war, like this is not how anything has gone in this war. Like when Israel starts talking about airstrikes in Lebanon, you've got like 3 hours worth of footage and pictures and videos and statements. And when they moved into Gaza, it was just nonstop information. It's been silent, and that's really weird. Because even if Israel isn't publishing anything, there are still people that live in Lebanon that have phones.
I have a secondary. What if Israel was able to kill, let's say, the power to an area, so that way these people don't have, or could like perhaps like a geofencing of an area to which they could block like internet signals, cell phone signals. I mean, cell phone signals you could block for a while, right? Not a whole bunch of them in the middle of the city. Like it's just, I don't know how you would power that blocking device, but what if they turned off the internet? Because I remember in the Arab Spring, they cut off the internet to, what was it? Egypt was a part of Arab Spring. Was it Libya? Libya was a part of Arab Spring. They overthrew Libya. Was that the same time, Libya and Egypt?
I think so.
There was like the Arab Spring, like Libya, Egypt. I think there were a couple other small ones, but those are the major ones where they like, I think it was Libya, just cut off the internet. They were like, nope. So unless you had Starlink, which I'm not even sure if that was around at that point, people were like trying to send videos to friends, or they would like get a video and then drive off to somewhere that had internet access, upload it, and then drive back to the front.
Maybe. I mean, after Operation Pager, it seems like anything's in the cards, right? But I don't know. It's much more silent,
which is weird.
Expect.
Like, no news is far more suspicious than a couple like things here and there.
Especially the ones that I'm watching here, which are not necessarily the most reliable, but they tend to be the fastest because it's individuals. So on Telegram, I'm looking at a lot of individual accounts, some organizations. Like, there's nothing stopping them from just blasting out rumors left and right, and that's not even happening. So, there's not like an editorial process that needs to happen with these guys, and it's still not resulting in anything.
Yeah, I got real no bullshit on here, and they're usually phenomenal on Twitter. And that they've got no updates about it, other than like an approval for defense aid for Taiwan. Like, I'm surprised that they're not even saying that Israel's posted.
Well, we didn't start this video with clickbait because that was official word from Israel.
Oh no, I'm a yellow journalist.
Did that happen? Are we there?
I mean, it's an official thing. A little bummed out that
I thought we were going to have like strike footage coming up during the course of this stream. Oh man, be like watching the shock and awe campaign from Baghdad live on YouTube.
Dude.
Oh, that's what we were stumbling into here.
That was like 2 or 3 years before I enlisted. I was watching that at my parents' house. I was in high school. Little did I know, a year or two later, and I would be in there, hanging out with some Iraqis. Like, wow,
supposed to be over by
like
then.
shit. Syrian defenses were activated to confront IOF bombing in the Meza area of the Syrian capital, Damascus. So there's more confirmation of Damascus being struck.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who this Indian observer person is. Oh, nobody.
Yeah, I would expect at least a couple of these rumor mills to be flowing, and nothing is.
Right? I'm getting nothing. I'm getting nothing other than IDF's actual post. Burden calls for immediate ceasefire in Lebanon, urges political plan for displaced citizens.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, fuck off. Don't you? I have a question. What do you feel? What do you think? What do you think when you see these small towns in states? I'm not even talking about Chicago, even though I think Chicago did it too. But like these small towns that are like, we are here at a city council meeting, and I think we need to demand a ceasefire in Gaza right now. And they're like, yeah, we're going to pass City Ordinance 3712-2024. We're calling for a ceasefire right now. What do you think that?
I feel like it's one of those things where, look, did you get all of your other work done first?
Is
everything else taken care of?
I think I like your point.
It's that. It's like, do that all you want if everything else is done.
Right?
Something tells me everything else isn't done. Yeah.
Got all those potholes fixed in your road? Got some new police cruisers because the old ones are busted? Salt rotted out? No? All right. Well, we're going to have to put that ceasefire on hold for a minute.
It's not what city councils are for, man. Right? Like, if you have... And it's not even that it's a bad message. Like, if you feel that way, that's great. But, like, don't go to the city council. Go to your representative to Congress. That's the person to talk to about that, or your senator. Not even your governor. You know what I mean? Like, foreign policy. It's not being dictated in Buffalo, New York.
Oh, God. Could you imagine? There'd be chicken wings everywhere.
Yeah.
Chicken wings.
All right.
They're halal. They're kosher. Bring the world together. They're delicious. A little fattening, you know? So, you get full, you get a little sleepy. Nobody's fighting on a full stomach. All right?
I've been to what is it, Anchor Bar?
Yeah. They originated
the
the wings, but it's kind of like Chick-fil-A has a saying. They didn't invent the chicken sandwich, but they make the best one. I think is like what it is one of their sayings.
That's about right.
They didn't invent the chicken sandwich, they perfected it. That's what it is. That's what they're saying is. Anchor Bar invented the wing, but they don't have the best one. There's a couple places like Duff's and like Bar Bill. They didn't invent the
I've been
wing,
to Duff's.
but they perfected it.
My roommate in college is from Buffalo, so we went up there, and he took us to Duff's.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 spots that everybody knows are really good, like the top S tier of chicken wing in Buffalo. But then even if you go to like a mom and pop pizza shop, food's amazing. That's
what we'd be exporting under a Buffalo foreign policy, though.
That's right.
It's the high
We
end
would
stuff.
get
The low end stuff. I don't know.
we get Duff's, Gabriel's Gate, Bar Bill, a couple other places. Just start sending out chicken wings. Well, we can't airdrop them because otherwise more Palestinians will die. Because those idiots will just look up in the sky and get crushed like they did with the last foreign aid drop.
That was wild.
Dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. You know what? When that happened, I mean, God bless them. There were civilians, I hope. Or I don't Jesus Christ. I don't know. I'm not happy that people died while they were getting aid. I know. I was like I didn't want them to be Hamas terrorists getting the food. But I'm like, ooh, at the same time, I also don't want civilians dying. So, this catch-22 there. I don't want anybody dying while they're trying to receive aid that they need in order to assist them in their living position while they're in the middle of a conflict. I don't want that, right? However, when that story came out, the dude was crushed trying to get aid. I knew exactly what happened. I've been swarmed, and I've seen it, where Iraqis would swarm a truck because we were giving out aid or school supplies or whatever to the kids, and it was just a free-for-all. Nobody could wait. There's more than enough for everybody, but of course they get like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different things instead of one. So not everybody gets it now because they got like 80% of them are all selfish and can't wait and are beating on the little ones. I just knew. I just like knew in that moment. I'm like, without even have seen it, I already know what happened.
Here's one for you. So Gaza Now is a Telegram channel, like 2 million followers. Be careful, because last week they said Nasrallah is still alive, and then 2 hours later said Nasrallah is dead. So they, mixed track record there. But they just said that Israel has begun a psychological operation in Lebanon. That's what they're calling it.
So we were right. So they, well, and I mean, we're sitting here like pontificating from our fucking armchairs in our house, saying like 2 or 3 different things could possibly happen. Well, obviously there's only like 3 fucking options. So
it happened or it didn't.
What's that?
It either happened or it didn't.
That's correct. And we were talking about it being a psyop, and I said it's not. They're not. The things that they're doing are on purpose. There's no mistakes being made. There's no, we're invading, and then 3 hours later nobody posts about it. It's not happening.
Yeah, so now the only news is it's a big channel. It's not the most reliable of channels, but they're calling it a psyop. It could be.
Wouldn't it be?
Had a bunch of people on YouTube live streaming, talking about it. They probably got exactly what they were looking for.
Yeah, but we're also kind of calling out. Like nobody's looking good from like this live stream. Nobody like said, "Oh yeah, they're totally pro-Palestinian." Or pro-Israeli here. Nobody's like super. Nobody won. We're doing pretty good at hedging our bets. We're trying to like give out the news as we see it, but like there's just no news.
The news keeps tricking us.
Trickery. Shame me once, shame on you. Shame me twice.
This is a good example of why I really try not to make videos about like breaking news stories. If I sat down to record a video 2 hours ago, it'd be about the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. Because, like, that's it. That's the thing that's happening. And 2 hours later, I'd be like,
You would literally, your video about Israel invading Lebanon would be, Israel's invading Lebanon. That's all we have. That's we don't have any video. We just have a statement stating that they're invading. More to come.
Follow, like, and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Hit up my Patreon. Buy his shirt. Lebanon's being invaded. That's all we know. All right. End of video. 8 minutes long. All
Get
right,
there.
brother. Well, you know what? I don't want to steal your time. We've already been on for like an hour and a half plus. I don't want to waste anybody else's time. We thought we were going to see some stuff. The thing that we learned today is that it's potentially a psyop. If people want to see more of the psyop or the actual boots on ground incursion into Lebanon, they should definitely follow your channel, Preston Stewart. Preston, tell the people where they can find you before we sign off.
Much appreciated, Rich. YouTube, Preston Stewart, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, all same handle there, Preston Stewart. But yeah, Rich, thanks so much for this, man. We got PSYOP together. There's no place I'd rather be tricked by Israeli media than here with you.
Damn Israeli media. It got us. We bit them. Hit hook, line, and sinker. They got us. Those shifty Jews, they got us.
No, next time. Yeah.
You could say that when they're being shifty. And I don't mean Jews in a negative term.
It's an okay
saying
way.
The Jewish state is being a little shifty.
You never know when it's okay.
It's not anti-Semitic.
Okay.
Like how you're okay. Just distancing yourself from this conversation. All right, brother. All right, let me close down this thing. All right, weirdos. Angry Streams is normally where I stream once a week. Every once in a while here on the Angry Cops channel, I'll do something if it's breaking news. And if I have a fantastic, interesting friend that will deal with my bullshit and nonsense and try to educate us all, because we're all too stupid as it is anyway. I'll see you